It's just the social worker again. Leanne calls to her mother as I enter the flat. She wearily lets me in. She seems more wary and tired of me and my colleagues every time we meet. It's late October and we've known each other for about 5 months. I've got some paperwork here, Leanne, but before we go through that, can we talk about something else? 2 days ago, we got a written referral from the NSPCC. It alleged that Leanne had been pulling her son along by holding his wrist and that she'd slapped him across the head as he fell, and that lots of people were frequenting the flat day and night, partying and drinking. She looks shocked. That's just not true, she says. It's him, Tony. He's doing everything he can to get at me and is using the kids now that he can't get at me directly. She bursts into tears. I try to reassure her. We don't believe a word of it, Leanne, I promise. I just thought I'd mention it. Let's ignore it. She doesn't seem convinced. Her mother has to calm her down. Leanne goes upstairs to fetch something and her mother says, Leanne's paranoid that you lot are going to take her kids off her. All this that's happened has got her feeling like she's to blame. Everyone's looking at her and no one's looking at Bragg. It's him you need to keep your eye on. Her mother's a pretty bullish character. My colleague reckons that she's prone to exaggeration, so I take what she says with a pinch of salt. When Leanne comes back downstairs, I show her the paperwork and say, let's go through this, shall we? I first came into contact with Leanne shortly after her little boy Harry was admitted to hospital with bruising to his upper body. That was early May. Appropriate arrangements were made for Harry and his younger sister Macy to be subject to the local authority placement plans. A joint investigation into Harry's physical abuse was to be conducted by Children's Social Care and the local police. Initially, Leanne was to have supervised contact with the children and they would go and live with her older sister Bethan. 4 days after Harry was discharged from hospital, I received a phone call from Bethan at work. Ruth, she says, obviously in an emotionally heightened state. Harry's just told me that it was Tony that hit him. I never liked him. Leanne was a totally different person when she was with him. We never saw her. Tony is or was at the time Leanne's boyfriend. He was there the night before Leanne found the bruising. We strongly suspect that he's the perpetrator, but apparently he was not in the room with Harry at any point that night and, of course, denied it. This admission from Harry will hopefully be a game changer. It later turns out that he said something similar to his grandma, Leanne's mother. Martin, my chief liaison in the police, goes round to the house with another officer and speaks to Bethan and with Harry, but the little boy won't disclose anything to the police. It's frustrating, says Martin, but we don't want to push the lad. He's only 6. Leanne totally believes her son and immediately cuts ties with Bragg, plus it's a condition of the child protection plan that she has no contact with Bragg. She refuses to speak to him, but says that over the course of that particular weekend, he tries to call her on the house phone on numerous occasions. She refuses to speak to him, but says that she's worried about the repercussions and that she's going to go and stay with her mum that weekend. Good for you, I tell her. According to my records, it was the 23rd of May, a couple of days after Harry's disclosure to his aunt, that I conducted a play session with Harry. I asked him if he'd like to draw a picture of his mum, which he did. Now, would you like to draw a picture of your mum's boyfriend, Tony? Harry states quite clearly, no, I don't want to draw Tony. He hurts me. And he points to the area of his body where the bruising was. 5 or 6 days later, I go to Martin at the police station and I tell him about Harry's disclosure. He doesn't seem particularly focused. Bloody sinus trouble, he says. I feel like shite. When I press him on the disclosure, he says, But Harry wouldn't disclose anything to the police, and we tried on at least 4 occasions. He adds, and Leanne said that Bragg was never left alone with the kids. He can see I look despondent and he says, we'll try and speak to Harry one last time. Honestly, I thought we were working together on this. 2 weeks later, the police declare that they're no longer chasing a prosecution because of lack of evidence. I'm livid about this. I've had no contact from Martin, so I call him on his direct line. Martin, I say, this is Ruth Walker. At our last meeting, you said you were going to speak to Leanne West's son, Harry, again. I just wondered what the outcome of that conversation was. That was 5 months ago. I've not heard back from Martin, and I never did find out if the police spoke to them again. So today I'm going through some documents with Leanne. About 6 weeks ago, she met another man with whom she's entered a relationship with. Alan, an old school friend. He lives in Nottingham, about 20 miles away. The plan is for them to move in together. Because of the conditions of the child protection plan, suitability checks have to be carried out on the new partner. Leanne's mother mentioned that they were burgled recently. We know it's him, Bragg, she says. Who's carrying out suitability checks on him? That's a police matter, I tell her, but she's on one now. Leanne saw him in town at the weekend, in a bar. So Leanne's trying to stop her mother from talking, but the old girl keeps going. Bragg was sat at the bar watching her. Leanne and the girls left as soon as they clocked it. She's terrified. She didn't speak to him. I say that that's probably a good thing, and that a condition of having the children returned to her is that she has no contact with Tony. We know that, snaps the mother. No wonder she's petrified of social workers. Your colleague was just as bad. My colleague went round a few weeks ago after the burglary. Your colleague was saying that Leanne has to demonstrate after the burglary that she's strong enough and independent enough to cope on her own, otherwise the kids will remain on the plan. Leanne's still trying to get her mother to stop talking. It's like I say, her mother says. No wonder she feels like she's to blame for everything. She's leaving her home now just to get away from him. I turn my attention to Leanne. How's Alan? I say. Are you looking forward to moving to Nottingham? She shrugs. I need to move, start afresh. Maybe she's having second thoughts. She doesn't seem that enthusiastic about the move anymore.